All right, a lot is happening. A lot has happened. Scott, my co-pilot back there, is killing it. He's been killing it. We are up against the clock. As of today, we are, I think, 10 days from the start of sick week. We haven't seen the dyno. We had a setback on the drive shafts, so we're definitely cutting it close. We're probably going to go borderline untested, but that's okay. In today's video, we're going to be installing the fuel system. This is like one of the last big things that we have to do. And then towards the end of the video, I'll kind of show you a brief overview of everything that's gone on and everything that we've accomplished. I'm really excited with how this thing has come off. I'm really excited with how this thing has come along. The brakes are done. We've bled the brakes. They're installed on both sides. We now have Vortec suspension on all four corners. Pretty big upgrade. We've done like lower control arms. We've installed electric power steering pump from a Volvo. You name it, like, you know, we have done a lot. So right now, Scott is working on getting the evap and vacuum lines and all the associated emissions stuff disconnected so we can drop the tank, and we'll put in the Henson dual 450 or dual 485 billet fuel pump hat assembly, and I'll show you guys that right now. All right, so here is the fuel pump assembly from Henson Motorsports. It's pretty nice. It's a billet hat, super nice, 8A in feed, 8A in return. This is a vent, and this contraption I have here is so I can connect the factory vent line back to this, and then this I'm going to run a vacuum line to the factory map sensor that is installed normally on the top of the Trailblazer fuel hat. Now, the only purpose of that map sensor is to detect if a vacuum is being pulled on the fuel tank. Now, you can turn that stuff off in the tune, but it's just so much easier to just make everything, you know, see what it needs to see to continue working properly. These are E85 compatible. It's really nice. Now, based on the instructions, like, I'm pretty sure we did this right, but you have to remove the fuel level sending section from the factory hat and then just bolt it on here. They tell you how to level it, which they want you to kind of level it with the bottom of the fuel pump holder. That way, like, when this is showing empty, there's still like 1/2 inch to 3/8 inch of fuel left in the tank, so you don't want to run it completely dry and risk like starving the pumps. Okay, so they are 450 E85 pumps, but either way, this setup is supposed to be rated for roughly 1,000 horsepower. Maybe not an E85, but it'll definitely be plenty of power for what we're going to make, which should be around 700. As a reminder, we've already got the Snake Eater injectors installed, the 1500 cc injectors. We have a fuel pressure regulator, and this is a full return style system now. And Henson has a really nice wiring harness that we also purchased. So we'll get into all that. So let's get the tank down. We'll swap this in, and then we'll start putting it back together and then getting the harness on. There's really only 3 wires you need to wire into the factory lines, and it's really nice. It's 2 wires for the fuel level sender and 1 wire for the 12 volt activation of the pumps. Everything else is in the harness itself. All right, so we got the Henson Motorsports fuel pump hat assembly installed. We kind of marked this just to make sure that we knew what we were doing. So this is the feed, the return, the vent. The only 3 wires, like I had mentioned earlier, that you have to wire in for the Racetronics harness are these 3 wires here. So there's a 3-pin plug on there. This gray wire will go to the gray power wire on the factory harness. And then these 2 other wires are the fuel level sending wires, also on the factory harness. That is the only thing you wire up. Everything else, there's just a couple of other connectors here. They just literally get put on, you know, power and ground. And then I think there's one other that goes on a chassis ground, which is right here. So pretty simple wiring. They give you some pigtails here, so they put these in line with the fuel pump. So if you want to run one pump continuously, they have like a little jumper that goes in here. And if you want to run one on a Hobbs switch, which we probably will run one on a Hobbs switch, which means one pump will run continuously, and then when the other pump sees 4 pounds of boost, it will kick on, and that way we don't have to overly heat the fuel in the tank. But now that we got all this together, we're getting ready to put the tank back in. We did get the transmission lines made and routed. They were going to be routed up and mounted above the tank, which is why we wanted to do this. They're kind of nice. They hug the transmission, they go back. We got the fuel lines made here. So, and then this is the vent line. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing in and button her up. All right, so we're wrapping up this fuel system install, and now I'm at my favorite part because you guys have not seen the engine bay since the last video, and I'm super excited to show you the work that Scott and I have done, and it's awesome. So take a look at this monster. There it is. The American 2JZ, the Ameribera. Oh, I'm so pumped. So obviously the front facing manifold makes a world of difference in how this thing looks. Now, mind you, it is still kind of a mess because we have the harness here for the fuel pumps. We still have to clean up some stuff. This is the Hobbs switch for the meth injection. We have the other Hobbs switch that we're going to be installing for the secondary fuel pump. This is the stainless fuel rail from Atlas Industries. Super awesome. And then the Snake Eater performance injectors are underneath that. We made this bracket to accept this air motive regulator, and so the supply fuel comes into the back of the rail, supplies the rail, goes up to the regulator. The regulator obviously regulates the pressure, and then the return out of the bottom of the regulator and back to the tank. So super pumped. We got this awesome spacer here. That spacer also has 1/8" MPT provisions. This is from a buddy. He sent me this. He's got some awesome stuff. I know he's working on some intake manifolds. Lime Swap. They have made a couple of awesome custom harnesses. Now they made them to my specifications. Like I asked for 18 inches. So they gave me an extension harness for the throttle body because the throttle body is normally here. So this is the plug. I really should have asked for a 2-foot harness because I wanted to like hide this better. That way you can see the coils. The Canformance engineering NGK coils and coil holders look amazing. We got the Volvo, it's going to be kind of hard to see, but down there we got the Volvo S40 electric power steering pump hooked up and wired in. Actually, this is an 80 amp fused connector going into this upgraded Tucson alternator. They sell this power wire alternator, which is a 250 amp unit over the 150 amp unit that comes factory. And then everything else, like AC dryer back in, because we're going to be running AC. So we had a custom AC line made. It's this, the only line that's not connected, but it runs pretty much all the way around. Instead of coming up and over and all that, we just made a soft line. This tank was here before. Scott moved it down and then installed the second tank, which is much smaller, but that is the new methanol injection tank. So it has a little sight glass so we can see the level, and it's just 1 liter, so I'll have to keep more of an eye on it, but everything is much nicer. It's much nicer. I was trying to say it's nicely packaged, but more nicely packaged than it was. Yeah, it's late. We've been working on this thing for a while.
Nicely packaged.
Yeah. So a couple of things we need to complete. We got to put the downpipe back in. I don't know, as much as I want to put heat back in this thing before sick week, I don't know that it's going to happen. So we may just have to run some like small space heaters in here. And then we got to mount the Motion Raceworks catch can somewhere. And it's been tough to try and figure out. We thought about doing it right around here, but it winds up hanging pretty low and the filter's kind of in the way. So I think we're gonna have to make like a custom bracket for it, We also have a vacuum distribution block that we probably will mount somewhere on this lip. And then that way we'll have vacuum lines that run to the fuel pressure regulator, the blow-off valve, and then both hop switches. So got to try and be as smart about that as possible. But this will go to the catch can, as well as this, which is the PCV. So that's a 10 AN and 10 AN fitting. And that's about it. So we're going to wrap this up. Like I said, all we got left really is this, which is power and ground. We're going to go right here and to the battery. And then install the hop switch and tighten everything up. So we're coming dangerously close to sick week without any testing, without any dyno time. It hasn't even fired up yet. So as you can see, we're getting really close. This was a huge day because we finished up the fuel system, which was like the last major component. Now it's just essentially a mad dash to get everything tightened up and buttoned up. Waiting on the drive shafts to come back. And once the drive shafts come back, we'll be able to hopefully move this thing under its own power. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed and you liked what you see, please consider subscribing. And thanks for everyone following along, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.